All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. We are going to be breaking down the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. So this tournament, formerly known as the AT&T Byron Nelson, is played at TPC Craig Ranch over the last 4 years. 2 years prior to that, it was played at a different course, Trinity Forest, which did kind of play the same. But this is going to be a tournament that is typically an easier scoring event. It is a longer track, though, but it does typically yield some very low scores. So if we look at kind of the past results or just the overview, minus 23, minus 23, minus 26, 25 over the last 4 years. And so with that already brings in naturally a decent amount of randomness this week. But I want to get into this right away, guys. We have one core play this week, guys, and it's Scottie Scheffler. Obviously, he's one player that's going to check in all the boxes, okay? And outright wise, we only have 3 good outright bets on paper. Last week, we had a decent amount of good outright bets. Ben Griffin being one that was popping up as a good outright bet. So maybe you guys got to him with Andrew Novak. Ben Griffin is going to be a good outright bet this week as well. Willie Z popping up in there is a good outright bet there as well. But the reason I'm pulling this up is because this should show you, and I'll show you guys another example. Made cut percent wise, we have Scottie Scheffler, 90% likelihood to make the cut. Then we have Sungjae Im, Jordan Spieth, and then Taylor Prince. A big drop off in terms that are likely to make the cut. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because this should be a pretty random week. On paper, this is probably the most random. Honestly, this is probably more difficult to predict than some of those secondary and alternative events that we have. We're just going to be ending up on a lot of golfers that have the best courses or maybe not in the best form or stat fits. There's barely any players that we can go out of our target, especially DFS wise, given their pricing. I actually think it's a little bit easier outright wise to end up on some golfers. Obviously, we'll touch on that as the video progresses, but let's go ahead and take those golfers that had the best course history here. So Benny Ann popping up in there, Carson Young, Scottie Scheffler, Jaeger, Jordan Spieth, even with the missed cut event last year. And so that should start to show you kind of the quality of field that we have. So we got a golfer in Jordan Spieth with one missed cut popping up in top 25. So that's interesting there. Recent form wise, we'll talk about that. So obviously Scottie Scheffler popping up in there, then Jordan, then Jaeger, then Bridgman, then Davis Riley. Okay, so again, it gets pretty ugly in form as well, pricing wise. Maybe we just go balanced approach for DFS. We'll talk about that, but let's go ahead and get into the top stat fits. So the nice thing about this tournament is that we do have, of course, to go off of to determine which key stats that we should be looking at. The bad thing is I would say we really only have 2 significant key stats, which I don't exactly like. Typically speaking, for each course, there's 4 key stats that we know to dial in on. For this tournament, it's actually birdie or better percentage because it's an easier scoring event. That does make sense that the golfers that are just scoring are the golfers that are making the cut, the golfers that are finishing top 10 and winning. Okay, that's an easy one. The second one, which is probably going to be a little bit surprising to people, is the 200 plus long iron. Okay, so because it's a longer track, golfers tend to have to hit the long iron a little bit more. And so we need those golfers there. So that's kind of a unique data point for this. It's kind of fun as well. Then from there, ball striking. So distance off the tee does matter. So included in ball striking is total driving, and total driving is driving distance as well. So that all kind of goes into ball striking already. But what's interesting is stroke gain off the driving distance doesn't actually right now significant success, which is interesting. Typically longer tracks that just does. And so I found that interesting. I would say it's not a bad thing to be on some longer hitters, but overall, we just want to be looking at strokes gained tee range. So that's what we're looking at key stat wise. As always, Keith Mitchell's popping up there, Scottie Scheffler, Jordan popping up in there. Joseph Brumlett is an interesting one. I don't know if we necessarily need to get there. The one that's really interesting is Ryo there, Hesitun, where I'm kind of butchering his name, but that's an interesting click, I would say. The annoying part about this week that makes it difficult both for DFS and betting is the pricing is good. I would have thought he would have been a little bit cheaper, just naturally speaking. When I came in and saw the price, I'm like, this is a tough week, and it really is. This is the toughest week I think we're going to have all year, guys, just with how it's priced and how a player is being valued. And so I'm going to do stuff a little bit differently in this video. Only going to be covering 4 players in each pricing tier that I like the most, guys, just to make it go a little bit faster. So if you appreciate that, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. But looking at it, we're looking at Scottie Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Keith Mitchell, and Jaeger. Okay, so Scottie Scheffler is just the easy. He is priced that way though as well. So that's the difficult part, is that playing him does make this more difficult. Where last week I kind of thought we could get away with Shane Lowry and Rory because they were like the only predictable team on paper. And I will say I am so sick of these weeks where we're just not getting a good week on paper in terms of my whole thing. Target both safety and then upside as well from that. just on paper, it's been a lot of random stuff. I'm like, all right, let's get past this week. So it's definitely going to be a week we're not playing that much, full disclosure, because of the progressives. But the top play is actually Sky Scheffler. We know that he is priced up. The issue with him being priced up is it's still a lot different from last year. Last year, we just play Scotty really whatever price, so we could lock in basically a top 5 finish. Okay, he finished 8th at the RBC Heritage, which didn't hurt you, but it didn't help you. And that's just because his price was jacked up. Now, that was a no-cut event, so you could get away with it, and it should have helped. This is not a no-cut event, okay? So getting 5 out of 6 across the cut line, obviously, you always want to be doing that. I think playing him could actually end up hurting you a decent amount, even though it's going to be pretty random of the good play. Outright-wise, I could argue there's 2 outright bets I want, maybe three. I think Scotty's going to win. Obviously, the odds suggest that as well, 3-1. And so if you're missing 3 bets, maybe Scotty's one. If he wins, it's a push. You don't win money, you don't win. But from there, guys, I do really think it kind of feels like it's Jordan's week. Okay, you look at JT and him win an event recently. You could argue Jordan Spieth has been due for a win as well. He has been someone that has been playing better recently as well. You know, top 20 at the RBC Heritage, you'd want that to be better. Top 20 at the Masters, he has been playing pretty darn well. And in terms of like some specialist stats, he does turn up at Texas-based events, guys. Top 20 in the field, top 45 in the field in Texas-based events, which overall is not great, I guess. But what I do want to point out is the easy scoring event. Okay, that is top 20. When there's not that much worry about his drives going wayward and that penalizing him, he does become more appealing. I think that's why we have seen success at this. So miscut, 2nd and 9th, like that there for him. And he's actually the 3rd best stat in the field. I don't remember the last time Jordan Spieth was the 3rd best stat in the field in any event. It's been like 5 straight years probably where he hasn't been top 5. And so that's pretty darn encouraging there as well. And he's been playing pretty darn good golf. And so it really would not be shocking to see him win. I think the price is actually warranted, which for Jordan. And so I do think that we could get to Jordan Spieth potentially as an outright bet as well, especially if we are not betting on Sky Scheffler. 20-1 for Jordan does feel pretty darn good this week. And so if you're just betting on basically Scotty not to win, I think Jordan would be a good option. Now, again, it is an easier scoring event. It is a little bit random as well. Now, I originally had Keith Mitchell on this list. He withdrew, which is unfortunate because he did feel like a little bit of a safer click compared to some of the other ones that we have. So, again, that kind of furthers my annoyance and kind of tilt for this week. I don't mind Benny Ann, who does have 2 straight top 15 place finishes at this event. Recent form has been getting better, guys. He overall ranks out 18th in the field. RBC Heritage, a 38th there is not a good result, just as an FY, but still good enough stuff as a whole. He's an okay stat fit. I'm kind of fine with him, but that really just shows you the field that we had. The play that I do like a ton is going to be Jaeger. So Jaeger has made 3 straight make cuts now at this tournament, which obviously we'd like to see. The recent form is the 3rd best in the field, guys. It has been, I don't want to say spectacular, but it's been steady. Okay, so 6th at the Mexico, top 20 at the Players, top 12 at the Houston Open, Texas-based event. Obviously like that there from him. Form has been good. 5 straight make cuts as well. Really just a lot of things to like. Not the best effort. That does concern me a little bit, but that's also baked into the price and also the outright odds that we are getting with him. And for me, guys, he is my one and only core play for this week, and that's just due to the pricing and kind of the security that I think we get with him as a play this week. So at 30-1, I feel pretty good about that, but his odds have gotten a little bit worse, which is interesting. So you can now get him at 40-1. So definitely be on the lookout for the updated odds there with him. Okay, so now we go ahead and jump down into the mid-tier, which, the dark horse tier, if you will. And I think that's pretty darn accurate with this week, especially with someone like Willie Z. Willie Z is a player that I mentioned is a good outright bet. A good outright bet for, again, some of you that maybe don't know, is just taking in the past winners on the PGA Tour, what were the top stats for those players, and then putting in that like equation that spits out which players for this tournament meet those thresholds of being a good outright bet. He's one of the 3 that we have. So take that for what it's worth. If you guys want to bet on him at potentially 50-1 on some sites, you can do that. But overall, not like a stellar play on paper. This is just betting on him pretty much to randomly get hot, which has somewhat worked out this year. And maybe he gets going at this event. And it is an event where you could see someone like him get going as well. I don't know if I necessarily like it. There are some like specialist stats to like in terms of the rough amount, in terms of the green width, pretty good there. Amount of bunkers, pretty good there. I mean, you could talk yourself into reasons to play him, but this really just echoes the field that we have. I don't know if we necessarily need to get to him more than just some GPP appeal. Another player that I don't mind is Ryan Gerard. Now, he is someone that has made a start at this event, finished 145th at this event 2 years ago. I don't necessarily care about that result too much. Okay, obviously he's playing extremely good golf right now on the PGA Tour, and that's a start where I'm kind of just glad that he made a start at this course and has experienced it before. The one issue that I would say that we have is actually the scoring. Okay, 48th in the field in easy scoring events. Not necessarily something that we need to care about too much, but when you pair that up with all the other specialists' points, maybe not liking him that much, except for the length. I should call that out. 5th in the field on longer tracks, so we do like that. But some of the specialist data is not looking great for him. Overall, that's one of his worst data points. 60th in the field in specialist rank. But he is a top 6 stat fit, guys. He does rank out really well stat fit. The only concern would be his ball striking, 62nd in the field. Everything else is pretty darn good, top 25 or better in the field. And the form is obviously spectacular. Zurich Classic, again, if you don't want to include that, then 27th, 2nd, 9th. Pretty good stuff, and so I'm okay with that. Do I want to bet him outright wise? I don't know. 65-1 is interesting for a golfer that is playing that good of golf. I don't know if I necessarily need to get there, but that's going to be the theme this week. And so another interesting click is going to be Ryo here, where he finished 13th at this event last year. Stat fit wise, guys, top 16 or better in all the key stats as well. Birdie or better percentage, ball striking is 54th in the field, but 200 plus, and then stroke gain 2 degrees. So 3 out of the 4 ranks out top 16 or better in the field. So pretty good stuff there for him as well. Specialist wise, it's a little bit of concern with him as well. Recent form has been good enough. Zurich Classic 35th, and then some pretty good results. We see top 5, top 4 in there, and so maybe someone I think we could potentially think about. Again, he's at 75-1. We're getting some pretty darn good odds for some of these longer shot bets. I might mess around with that a little bit. It's probably just going to be Jaeger and Jordan for me, and maybe I'll toy around with Scotty. But this is an interesting outright bet as well. Definitely a good long shot bet. Probably looking at more of like a top 20 bet at 3-1. I think that might be a better option to go with him. And then Harry Hall is an interesting click as well because he's one of the better specialists in the field. Okay, and so we just scroll down, we can see a lot of reasons to play him. So fairway width, greens, green speeds, length still top 20 in the field, Parkland style courses top 18 in the field, easy scoring events 8th in the field. So that all bodes well for him. What doesn't bode well for him is the fact that he hasn't played well at this event. So 67th and a missed cut there, so don't love that. Not the best stat fit, not the best form as well, not terrible. Would like it to be a little bit better. And so he is just properly priced. But he's priced at $8K, and we're getting a golfer that hasn't necessarily been playing great golf, and he's looking like one of the better options at $8K. That's the issue with the field that we have this. And so we go ahead and jump into the sleepers tier, and I almost like this section a little bit more than that dark horses tier. Okay, we have some players that are interesting clicks. So we got Isaiah Saladina, who, if you've been following along, kind of watching the coverage or just even the leaderboard, he has been popping up on some leaderboards. Okay, first round leader last week, which again, it's the Zurich Classic. Do we really care about that too much? Probably not, but still, he was there. I think playing good golf is always a good thing. That's why I like to look at the Zurich Classic. Valero Texas Open did not play good golf there. Houston Open 11th. Okay, we also see a 3rd place finish at the Mexico Open. Somewhat of a similar-ish type of event. Now, this is a more Parkland style course rather than a wide open course like they play at Mexico. But he's someone recent form-wise, it's laughable, 10th best in the field, guys. I wouldn't say this is good form. I mean, coming in off of a miscut, 68th, it's okay, but that's the field that we have. 25th best staff in the field. I mean, that's how ugly things get pretty early. I could see maybe if he gets early tee time, betting him to first round lead, but yeah, that's the ugly. It's such an ugly field. There's not a lot to hang our hats on with some of these plays. Honestly, it's a more difficult week, and we'll talk about the lineup process later on in this video. I'll show you guys what I'm going to be doing. Taylor Moore is interesting because he is a good stat fit. Keith Mitchell is a player that I want to be on a decent amount this week, and he withdrew. Taylor Moore is a similar stat fit to him as well, and we have seen both of those players kind of pop up thus far this year. So if we look at Taylor Moore's form, over his past 9 starts, has 2 top 10 finishes, which for this event, not terrible. Course history-wise, no miscuts at this event, only had 1 start. Okay, so 32nd at this event 3 years ago. Good stat fit. Overall ranks out really high, though. I'm actually surprised at the odds that we're getting on him because he's a good stat fit. Maybe it's because he's not. I mean, he's a fine specialist, top 10 specialist in the field. I actually think he makes for a good outright bet as well, long shot wise. And so, again, it really just depends on what you guys are doing. If you're betting on Scotty, probably not someone you're getting to. If you aren't betting on Scotty, great outright bet. You could go Jordan, Moore, Ryo, and Jaeger. You got 4 pretty good bets right there. So I think Taylor Moore, I could easily talk myself into there as well. Then we jump into some more. Davis Riley's fine, guys. He's made 2 out of 3 cuts at this event, one of them being a top 10 finish. Also has made 6 straight cuts now on the PGA Tour, not including the Zero Classic. The PGA Tour doesn't include that. And then Henrik Norlander as well. Henrik Norlander is certainly interesting. So 3 top 20 finishes in a row. Does have course experience here. Not all the best. Best finish was a 34th place finish, but has played this course 3 straight times. Staff it wise, 5th in birdie or better percentage, which is certainly interesting. Top 20 in also strokes gained TD Green. He's in the 6th best form in the field, which again, that's interesting. And DFS wise, just given the pricing that we're getting, I think he's someone we need to end up on. I could toy around with him at 120 to 1 on FanDuel as well. And so again, if you're betting on Scotty, not someone you're getting to. If you're not betting on Scotty, I actually think you could easily talk yourself into him at 100. I think that's a pretty good bet. I could see myself getting to him to top 20 at 4 to 1. And just based off of that, we could probably get a pretty good May cut bet on him as well. If that ends up being like minus 140 or something, I think that could be a spot to get to there as well. With DFS wise, I almost made him core play, but just in the sense that he's still not like close to checking all the boxes. There's still risks. I don't want to put that like tag on him personally, but he is someone that does really pop. And yeah, the form has been pretty darn good. Minus at the Houston Open and the Players Championship, been pretty darn solid for. Then we're jumping into the value tier, guys. I'm cheating a little bit with this one. Talking about 2 7K players. Ricky Castillo, who's a good stat fit, guys. Pretty good form. Overall, I do think he gives us a pretty decent chance at a make cut at this event. Hayden Springer, who made a start at this event last year, missed a cut, but still has course experience. Never a bad thing. 5 straight make cuts for him. He's someone that's definitely an interesting click. I can certainly find reasons to get to him, and 7K does feel a little bit too cheap for him. I'm not saying we need to bet him at 120 to 1, but again, maybe 4 to 1 to top 20. Not a terrible route to go there with Hayden Springer. And then some value plays that I could see make the cut. Nate Lashley has made 4 straight cuts in a row now. Does have plenty of course experience. 67th, 23rd, 17th, and missed cut at this event. And then Quade Cummings, 67 at this event last year. He's also someone that's been in pretty good form, 21st best form in the fields. Some interesting values there if you want to get to those guys. I don't know if we necessarily need to. And then again, the one core play that I'm going to be on is Jaeger. Just as pricing, he is someone that is basically checking all the boxes. Not necessarily. Sky's the only golfer that is checking all the boxes. And so this was kind of the first build that I ended up making. Jaeger, Norlander, who I feel pretty comfortable getting to. I did go Saladina there, Jordan, and Harry Hall. Now, in conclusion of the video, I do want to see if we can get to like Springer as well instead. I think at 7K, he's someone I want to get to. Taylor Moore does feel a little bit risky. He's not a safe play. Okay. Harry Hall's fine. He was kind of the last player into my build. But this is the issue with this week is you can really talk yourself into any line of path, and any line of path can warrant your consideration. That's the tough part. And this is just to show you guys how hard it is to get Scotty into a build as well. Like I don't mind Lashley, but we have to go 6.8, and I think that's a drop off there. Jeremy Paul's like the only one that pops up to me. Maybe Potty Gear or someone people like in a longer track. I don't necessarily love that. And so that again is the issue that we have. If we had Keith Mitchell still in the field, I'd probably click on him, but we don't, so we can't. Benny Ann I think is fine at his price tag. Does feel a little bit risky. You click on him, then we could go. Yeah, it's an interesting weekend. Maybe Pendrith. I'm fine with Pendrith. Ben Griffin, I'm fine. It does get difficult. And so I can't even close out a build comfortably. And that's the issue. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the lineup builder. And I'll show you guys what I'm going to do here. So really what I think the move with this week is to bump up the randomness to maybe even like 5%, okay? Maybe more than that. And we'll do 30% max exposures to start, maybe 3 unique players. I want to be embracing the randomness this week. I probably should have done that more last week as well. We're going to bump some of the projections up, maybe Jordan a little bit, maybe Jaeger a little bit, because I like Jaeger a decent amount, a little bit more than the data does. So we'll do that. We'll just generate this, and again, it's going to naturally put in some randomness. And so if you guys like kind of this approach, you guys can see what we're doing here. And so it does like Alex Miller, Rico Hoy, but what we're going to notice is it really is trying to go fair and balanced, but while we're including the randomness, it is still getting to Scotty Scheffler about 20%, which is not a bad thing. And I think this is just the best approach to go with. Embrace the randomness that we have. And so that's going to do it for this week's video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you guys want access to the 9 to 5 cheat sheet or the 9 to 5 lineup optimizer, plus all the PrizePicks underdog prop tools that are available on the website, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all the tools available on the website for just $10 a month. I priced it that way for you guys. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.